Well, good evening, everyone. Glad to see you. I'm glad you took the time to come out tonight. I don't get very nervous about speaking normally. However, as the evening went on out here, it must have been 10 people, so I can't wait to hear what you have to say. I'm like, oh my God, I actually have to think about what I'm saying, all right? So I have a couple notes, but I like to tell stories. And, you know, I think that my love for business started when I was pretty young, actually. I was born Amish in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And my dad wanted electricity in a car. And so we didn't stay Amish my whole life. And, you know, it was good, but he was an entrepreneur. And I think I caught his genes early because all of my friends were still Amish. All my cousins, most of them still are. And we used to take, we got away with it for a long time until, it was late summer in the fall. Our moms went to the basements to get their those glass ball canning jars, you know, and they were gone. Well, what we had discovered is that people would buy Amish water. And so we'd set up these quart jars along the road, and we'd sell water. We got it out of the tap. It was Amish water. It was out of a house, right? So, it didn't turn, it come to find out, we weren't aware that, you know, the price of what you sell something for should be more than the cost of everything that goes into it. We were really upside down by the end, but I think Mom got new canning jars out of it. So that was, one upside. But thank you for the invitation, Dan. I appreciate the opportunity to be here tonight. And probably the most impressive thing is how Dan is forward-looking. And so I'll talk about some of what we've experienced at the Nook back east, and hopefully, you can take it and figure out how to use it. And I probably have some ideas, but we're still learning. It's been quite an experience. Imagine this past weekend we had a volleyball tournament, and if you've been to the Nook, and there's probably at least 20 or 25 people here who've been there, it's kind of out in the country. It really is out in the country. And there's a row of houses across the street, but generally all around it is farmland, and so there's not a lot to do. People do drive to get places, but I was thinking about being located, right across the river here in Hamilton. On Saturday, Sunday, and on Monday, we had more than 11,000 people a day in our building. And the car traffic, based on turns, most of them left at some point and came back for more games, or there was a morning wave and then an evening wave. Now imagine if half of those people started walking around Hamilton. All right, you got Dan Smart to help you think about this ahead of time. Because if you have 5,000 people a day coming to eat 1 or 2 meals, they're going to stay in hotels either in Hamilton or in the surrounding area in the county. It's a big deal. So I'll tell you a little bit about our learning. I do laugh at myself quite a bit. I suppose I should have learned. Anyway, I learned a lot of things the hard way once. I've also figured out it's better if you can, when somebody else screws up, if you can learn from their screw up and not do it yourself. It's just a lot better that way. But, I started at Auntie Anne's in 1989, which was the year it was founded. And, I'd been self-employed, so I had a business. My wife and I had a business. And it was kind of a hard decision to join because we had plenty of freedom. Okay, we were making decent money, for a young married couple. And kids came along and screwed that up too, but we were doing all right. And I got a call one day if I would want to join Auntie Anne's. I think I don't know if there were 10 or 12 employees at that point. And I knew Ann and Jonas, who had founded it. They were Beilers also, but we weren't related on the Beiler side. It was on the Smooker side, so you can figure that out. That's called the Mennonite game when you start going down out those. But the point, and part of my excitement about hiring people and training people is the opportunity to help them, I think, understand how simple things make a difference. All right, so a couple years after I got hired at Auntie Anne's, I was hired by somebody named Ellie Zemer. And she really helped professionalize our office, all right? So literally, like, how do you answer the phone, I think, but maybe not quite that basic. But a couple of years in, I said, Ellie, why'd you call me? And she remembered meeting me a couple of months before she called. And I had no recollection I even paid attention to this, but it was my eye contact and handshake that made an impression on her. Now, I was in my early 20s, and so, maybe you should have learned that, but, people don't know that. And it's that simple. But talk about opening up an opportunity. Wow. And so, I spent the years, and my focus there was on the franchisees. I was actually a compliance person. We called them store support. That's what you do when you're, inspecting someone, but you don't want them to think you're there for support, right? Like, I'm from the government, I'm here to help, right? So, but I will get back to Hamilton because you have something unusual here, but so my experience really for the first couple years was really practically all across the country, but with more managers in the store. And that's really where things happen. And so when I think about what can happen along the streets of Hamilton, at the cafes and the bakeries and coffee shops and restaurants and more restaurants that will, you don't have enough restaurants to feed 5,000 people yet. Wait, was that the fish in the loaves? I forget, but a couple more restaurants will handle it also. But so really, every couple of years at Auntie Anne's, I had an opportunity for an advancement. Spent some time in Florida, spent some time in Chicago, and then came back home. My normal speech is dream big, work hard, and never quit. And the point on all of those, is dream big. I mean, why not? It's a dream, right? You're gonna fight for it. You're gonna go after it, and the work hard part is where a lot of people quit, but then never quit. And I think especially for small businesses, I've been there. So long before I was with Auntie Anne's, I had a couple of small businesses, and it's a challenge. It's a real challenge to do all the work that needs to be done, and anybody that started one knows exactly what I'm talking about. Somebody was talking about they are 17 years into a process, and they're very successful, and I thought, yeah, an overnight success, right? That's what everybody thinks, but 17 years in, you make a big difference, and the job does get easier. But we built up Auntie Anne's, just had an incredible team there, and over the course of just about 6 years, we doubled our corporate sales, and that was through steady growth. There wasn't any crazy process there, but importantly, we quadrupled our earnings. And it wasn't by cutting costs or by cutting staff. It was because we had an incredibly motivated staff with everybody pulling in the same direction. And that is much of what I see in Hamilton. All right, you have no idea the power when everybody pulls in the same direction versus one or two oddballs, troublemakers, who try to pull off to the side. It just sucks the energy out of everything. And what I see in Hamilton is really pretty unusual and quite impressive. So come 2010, we'd come through the recession, right? And we just grew right through the recession. Our earnings continued to improve. And there were a lot of players who had a lot of cash, but there weren't many businesses to buy because not a lot had held as steady through that recession. So it really wasn't part of my plan. When I bought Auntie Anne's, I don't know what I thought. I probably die eating pretzels or something, and I probably still will die eating pretzels. But the opportunity came along. The multiples were kind of ridiculous, and so at 45 years old, I sold Auntie Anne's and retired because I thought that's what you do. And it was about 6 months later, in the summer. I think we sold in mid or late November, and by the next summer, I couldn't get out of bed in the morning. It was ridiculous. 9 o'clock, I couldn't get out of bed. And my wife said, "You're depressed." I said, "I am not depressed. I don't get depressed." What am I depressed about? Who would pity me anyway, right? But I learned through that process that for me, it's the pursuit of a goal. And I think for many people, it's the pursuit of a goal. And of course, you want to achieve your goals. But it's really important to have another one after you achieve that first one and the second one. Because for many of us, especially in the business community, and I believe that's a large part of who's here tonight, really, I think it is the pursuit of something. And so we decided that Sam needed to do something. I think Melody was as tired of me at home as I was of being at home. But so I thought, hey, let's open a sports complex, because Monica, our daughter, had played volleyball for about 5 years on a club team. And we traveled around only as far as Orlando. That was about once a year. But, generally it was in a 3-hour radius, maybe 4 of Lancaster. And I thought, let's open a volleyball center. Her coach was interested in being involved, and so we started looking for a building. And this building wasn't to be found. I wanted to keep it in Lancaster County because I believed it would be an economic driver. And so we looked at about 23 buildings. And all of them, the columns were too close or the ceilings were too low. Well, there was one in a town called New Holland, but you can't get there from anywhere. There's no highway. It just wasn't a good place to locate. And my realtor kept sending me this listing. And I was getting a little tired of it because I told him twice. I said, Tim, I don't want to see it. It's too big. It was a 600,000 square foot building. I thought, what are you going to do with a 600,000? I don't even want to see it. And I know why I didn't want to see it, because I was afraid of what would happen. And sure enough, it did. But by that was on a Friday. I don't think I told Melody until Monday. But anyway, I went to Staples. I got this 2x3 grid paper and cut tennis courts and basketball courts and volleyball courts out to scale and started laying this out. And I skipped church on Sunday. I didn't hear the end of that for 3 weeks. But that's why Monday I really had to fess up what I was doing. But, I tease about Melody, been my strongest support. All the years I traveled, I don't remember her complaining once. And, if you have a spouse that's supportive, it's a pretty special thing. But we kept going, and I thought, I probably ought to get an architect to look at this. So I took my little sheet over with all the Scotch tape and stuff on and gave it to my architect, and he started doing an outline. Well, this building had been was held by the Royal Bank of Scotland, who had made a $22 million loan to this investor group out of New Jersey. I'll tell you more about people from New Jersey soon. But they held this for 2 years because it was interest only, non-recourse, and at the end of that time, they gave it back to the bank, and the bank held on to it. So we had a great opportunity. It's about a 60-acre property with a 600,000 square foot building. So I went to see it for the first time, and when I walked in the doors, I literally, let me describe it first, all right? The roof leaked all over the place, and it looked like a rainforest, sort of. It was a little steamy in there. It had these yellow halide lights, the old warehouse lights. We saw dark things moving across the rail up on the wall. Found out later there were 5 tribes of raccoons had moved into this building, and they were none too happy when we started coming in. We have a dog that they liked even less, so they left. They found a more peaceful place to live. And but when I walked in, I literally could hear whistles, and I saw kids playing sports. Now, I didn't really, and I'm not crazy, but I'm talking. This is visionary stuff, all right, And so we, I thought, man, this might work. So we went back and started looking at the whole opportunity. And really, all I knew about was volleyball. What I didn't realize is that the same amount of crazy parents and kids are following softball and baseball and basketball and field hockey and futsal and soccer, and it goes on and on. I thought, hey, this might work. So we did some research, but you'll find I'm not a big research guy, I think. Maybe I am a little bit, but so somebody just asked, how to get the name Spooky Nook? And it's a pretty good story. I said, you can't imagine how much we spent on the marketing and research on getting this brand together. And they were thinking, well, how much? And I said, 400. They thought 1,000. I said, no, it was $400. It was a tattoo artist made the logo, and the road name that we're built on is Spooky Nook Road. So now the people come in, they come in from all over, and I'll talk with sometimes they're like, how'd you get them to change the name of the road? I said, you have no idea how difficult it was. But hey, you take it where it comes, right? I don't want to let the truth get in the way of a good story, so we get. But when it comes to consultants, I usually ask, but I'm not even going to ask how many consultants there are. We had a consultant came in and to kind of help us plan this out, and they told us we needed 600 parking spaces. So we were like, oops, that's a lot, But we had a couple soccer fields out there and then this paved area. And prior to us buying the building, it was a distribution center. So, it had truck traffic and very large turnaround areas. It was built to last, and so it was a good building for what we wanted to do. And we had our first tournament, I think it was in March. It was called the Irish Rumble, a big volleyball tournament. We probably had 16 courts, so that would have put it at maybe 3,200 players. We figured one car per player, but they come in waves, they come and go, and so we were somewhat prepared. We had an off-site parking area, and the cars started coming, and they kept coming, and they kept coming. And here's 500 cars, and then 600, and all of a sudden the radio crackles, and this guy named Larry was out in the parking lot. I can hear his voice to this day. Guys, I need some help out here. We had 2,000 cars came that morning. We figured out volleyball parents come, I don't know if they don't get along or what, but mom comes early and dad comes late and grandma comes on Sunday. And man, it was cars everywhere. It was crazy. But we learned fast. I can tell you that one of the first conversations I had when I came out here is I said, we need 2,500 spaces, and it's got to be on-site or adjacent. It just, we had shuttle lots set up. This is the other story about, so we started charging for parking. It was the best way to reduce the number of cars. So it's $5 a car, but you'd think it was the end of the world. So those first couple of months, I was in the parking lot 16 hours a day, and these people were not nice. It was crazy. I had a hat on, a scarf. They didn't know me from Adam, all right? And a couple of them said, "You will never amount to anything." And I'm like, sorry, I'm going to try to do better. The best one was, somebody in a BMW with Starbucks coffee and just complaining up a storm about this $5 parking fee. I'm looking like, seriously? All right. Anyway, we made it through that. We kept adding. We eliminated soccer field after baseball field, and we ended up with about 2,000 spaces on site now, and an agreement with a neighboring property that we can use from Thanksgiving to Christmas, some of our busiest time periods, so we pick up another 500 spaces there. So I heard about this project in Hamilton, and I want to recognize the city. We'll start with the mayor and city council and them being smart enough to hire Joshua Smith. All right, Joshua is a restless guy, okay? But let me tell you what I saw when I'm in his office, okay? He's looking out over the city, and he can't stand that there's a building over there that's not occupied, and there's an empty lot, and there's rundown properties. He doesn't rest. All right, so you get somebody like that that's trying to drive an effort, and he has a really strong ability to bring people together. And the city has it's unusual, all right? I mean, I've dealt with municipalities on many occasions, and what you don't find here is a lot of political power playing in the city, all right? And what you don't find here is a lot of ego-driven types of decision-making. That's not been our experience. I've sat in a number of meetings, public meetings and in private meetings. They are focused on how to make Hamilton better, how to help Hamilton, regain its stride. And by the way, we're excited about coming, but the energy that's already here, you can see it in the restaurants. You can see it in the new, you've got new restaurants coming. The other thing, people here drink a lot of beer. You ever notice that? All right. It's kind of crazy. So we've gone to visit some other spaces. One of them was one of the other sports facilities. And I go walking in, and I'm like, this is pretty cool. I see the kids coming in, and here comes a mom with a pitcher and a couple Solo cups. And I'm like, what the heck? All right, so Pennsylvania has really crazy liquor laws. They were written, I think 2 weeks after Prohibition was over. They haven't changed since. Tom, ask Tom Vanderhorst. He's got a new favorite beer. Somebody he met back in Pennsylvania. He'll tell you about it. Was it Stacy's mom or something? I think is a beer. It's a beer. Trust me, it's a beer. But Joshua sees the potential of this city, and I've been through this once before. Lancaster City, 15 years ago, went dark at 5 o'clock. The number of businesses downtown had reduced dramatically. As a young couple, wait, that was more than 15 years ago, but that would have been 20. We didn't go there were no restaurants. You didn't go downtown. There was nothing to do. And at this point, most of this has happened in the last 15 years, there is a vibrant art community. I would put it at no less than 15 or 20 art studios. And it's already happening here. So I'm connecting the dots, all right? I see what's happening here. You have building stock and roadways that you probably underappreciate. So in Lancaster City, which was built back when everybody drove horse and buggies, the streets are narrow. There's just really limits to what you can do. The building stock is maybe 100 years older. It's much more costly to rehab. But we've had this thriving arts community with artists. They make a living. I mean, they make a good living. You walk into these, every first Friday is, it's First Friday, but it's first Friday of the month. All the art studios stay open. They have wine and cheese and all this. The streets are throbbing with people. Thursday is now, not Thirsty Thursday. I think it's Music Thursday or something. But there's just multiple event after event. And restaurants, I don't know, there's got to be 30, 35 restaurants now downtown. This Lancaster City was dark not many years ago. And Luca, a new restaurant that opened, you call for a reservation now, it's 2 weeks. 2 weeks. I don't plan that far ahead for almost anything, but the pizza's really good. But you have a special government in the city of Hamilton. If you go, check out the mission statement. I mean, it's like a business. They're serious about serving their customers. Now, you're going to fight with them about taxes, or you might have a water bill, or you might, it's all that stuff. I get it. But their focus on how to bring the city along is pretty amazing. And I haven't seen or felt that, what we feel in the city here, anywhere else. Markham Apartments, German Village, Main Street, High Street, you've seen it changing, but it might be so slow you forget it happened, right? But it is happening, and it's quite amazing. We did a study, or a study was done on our behalf. I think EDC will release it shortly back east, on the economic impact of Spooky Nook Sports in Lancaster County. Again, we're out in the country, and so I think what happened is we opened, and then you really got to get on the highway and go one exit, which is only a mile or so. Up there, 5 new restaurants, a new hotel, another hotel right at the exit where we're located. Another hotel down on Centerville Road, 2 exits down and a couple miles away. Lots of things are happening because of the demand. And we have about 150 employees full-time. We have about 600 during our busy season, which is last year was about 9 or 10 months of the year. So we're excited about having a workforce available. We're excited about the opportunity to train them. It's a challenge because it's hard for anybody to hire anybody that's not over 16, right? You can't use a dishwasher. Can you imagine? That's dangerous equipment. No kid is allowed to use a dishwasher. But I'm excited about it because of the proximity to Hamilton, and I think the impact we're going to be able to have on the youth employment here. So there is a really great opportunity. In the 12 months of this economic measure, through our booking system, so we have a housing service that helps with booking hotels. There were many rooms outside of this. But through our system, we booked 60,000 room nights in the past 12 months. That's a lot of rooms, all right? That's a lot of people. Every one of those people buy gas sometime when they're in town. Every one of those families buy at least a couple of meals. We want them to eat with us sometimes, but we want them to experience Lancaster because it's a part of what keeps them coming back. It will turn into, hey, Hamilton is really a cool place. Let's go down, let's make that our vacation. You'll find the interconnection. When you get people coming and you treat them really well, you'll be amazed at what happens. The economic impact, so anyway, it was about $98.5 million impact, direct, indirect, and induced. That's an amazing number. I was amazed at the number. I started thinking it's going to be a big number because we see the people coming and going. But the opportunity for Hamilton, I think, is huge. And by the way, if you're thinking about opening a business, I'll give you, this is free advice, all right? Get a lease now, all right? But if you can, make it contingent on the first permit drawn on this project. See, then you've got you feel safe, but get out there and do it because I'm telling you, those storefronts on Main Street, on High Street, are going to be gone. You're going to be surprised at how quickly they're taken up. there will be a need for more hotels. I don't know how close. The highway traffic's important. What we do, and by the way, we talk a lot about Spooky Nook Sports Complex, but there's an entire convention center that's coming with this. So it'll be a 200-room hotel, a couple 100,000 square feet of convention space, all on Mill 2 on the riverside. Imagine those bricks taken out of those big openings and windows back in there. The view across, so I've been, that one building, the white, we call it Beirut. It's like the bunker building on the, right below C Street. But I've been up there in the top. The view from these buildings across the river and into the city is incredible. When people visit here, they're not going to forget because it's unusual. I think the river is perhaps being appreciated more than it has been in the past. So the history of, at least, the pictures in the hotel here, that was a lot of water one time back in the day. I think there were horses floating or something. It was bad, Now, but it's under control, and so it's a real asset. There's some good work being done on how do we make the most out of this river. But if things are done together, working together, I think you're going to be amazed at, I would call, the product you have to deliver to the visitors. It's going to be an amazing thing. So where do we stand with the project here in Hamilton? Mike gave me a good idea, so I need an analogy. So it's a little bit like when I was a kid. I think my kids were worse, I'm sure. But when you're driving somewhere and it's a pretty long ride, geez, you might only be an hour into an 8-hour drive, and they start, are we there yet? Are we there yet? No, not yet. And then we say, yeah, we're here. And then they say, what? No, I said we're here, we're not there yet. But really, this project is similar to a really long car ride, all right? It's far. You got to stop to refuel sometimes, and there's a lot of challenges. So funding a project like this, which we're projecting probably in $140, $150 million, most of that zeros, okay? So the 115 or 14 or 150 up front, that's what counts. All the zeros at the end don't matter, all right? But, oh wait, it's zeros in front that don't matter, right? Okay. So we continue to work on the funding stack. We've had some very successful meetings in the past couple of weeks, especially on the senior debt side. I could read more letters to you like New Market NMTC, New Market tax credits, and historic tax credits, which, by the way, we're planning on preserving the buildings pretty much as you see them. There's a little bit more of Mill 1 that'll be taken down. That's on the other side of B Street. But the Mill 2 that's on the river, it's going to look pretty much the same. We're planning on keeping all of the exterior wall along B Street on Mill 1, so that basically when we're finished and you stand down there in what I think we'll call the B Street Canyon, it's going to look like it looked when somebody's grandfather worked there or when your dad worked there. And we've just heard some really cool stories about people whose families worked there for a long time. But it's going to be an incredible project. The remediation is pretty much complete. All of the outside remediation has been completed. I think all of the remediation in Mill 2 has been completed, and what's left in Mill 1 was left on purpose because it'll be part of a demolition process instead of a two-stage project. Design plans are well underway. We've kept up. The city is working on the road and infrastructure. An engineer on our part is working alongside to make sure that our parking lot, isn't lower or higher or whatever, they do. So all of those things are moving along. Mike Dollard describes it as there's about 8 or 10 of us at a cliff, or we're walking toward a cliff, right? And we're holding hands. And if anybody gets too far back, then you got to, focus on that and pull it forward. And it is not an insignificant job. Andy Brossart has been supporting our efforts, and in fact leading many of them on the funding side. And I'll tell you, this guy he's very good, and he works very hard. He's done many deals, and he says this is the most complicated that he's ever worked on. So we know we're tackling a pretty big project here. Mike says, I know we're getting close because it's getting really hard. And really it is. A year ago we could put off this conversation or put off that target, but we're down now into a 3, 5, 6, 8 week period where we have got to nail down a couple of things, and I think we're very close. We remain very confident. Someone asked the other day, why do you do this? You know what? And I said, that's good. No, but no, entrepreneurs chase ideas and have a compelling need to make things work. And so, I love work. I told you about what happened after I thought I retired. It's a terrible idea. I think it's an American idea. I guess others retire too, but it's a, so I love to work. And we built something back east that hadn't been built before. And it was a startup. It was a startup on steroids. All right, so we started in like December with 8 employees. By February we had 24, and by June we had 300. So it was wild in terms of a takeoff. But what I love is going to work every day and figuring out how to do something better, how to streamline a process, how to support people in growing in terms of their opportunities and their jobs. So we remain very excited about this project in Hamilton. We're excited to continue to work with the city and so many others. I mean, I thought about starting to list names, but John with the foundation and Mike Core Fund, and there are really an unusual collection. Not that John and Mike are unusual, but the behaviors, like to work together. There are lots of people in Hamilton that are really pulling all in the same direction, and we've felt that, and that's been really clear to us. I'm certain it's not me. I didn't do anything there, but it's been an exciting process, and we are. I feel very comfortable with where we are and the ability to bring the project home. There will be a lot more over the next couple of months. Some of the funding programs I was talking about, they make their allocations soon and all that, so you'll hear more about that as it comes this way. But I'm excited about Hamilton. I was thinking about the experience that a Spooky Nook guest would have when they come here. And they're going to go in, they're going to come in early, the kids are going to play some volleyball, and then they've got really a short walk to a downtown area that's going to have a lot of amenities that they're going to enjoy. And every shopkeeper that I've met here and every restaurateur that I've met here engages in a way that makes you want to come back. We're not here enough nights to eat in all of these places, but I wish I could. And a lot of it has to do with who I'm interacting with. So this city is really primed for what's coming, and we're excited to be a part of it. Honored that you'll receive us and welcome us, and I thank you for your support, for being here tonight. Appreciate it.